So this is your big board here. Now, describe to me what your big board is. Is this if you were in charge? This is how you've ranked the players, not how you think they'll be drafted.
Exactly. This is how based on
you rank
value,
them.
Talent,
Right.
just overall actual football drafting.
If you were the general manager of an NFL franchise, like if I am able to weasel my way into the Commanders ownership group,
this is what I would be influencing.
And then through some sort of a magical Game of Thrones kind of maneuvership, I suddenly become in a position of power. Yeah, right. Then I
like
hire
this.
you as a general manager.
This is going in a good direction.
I hire you as our general manager, and I said, all right, run our draft room for you. This is if this had happened this season, this is what would have come out, right? This is your top 10 prospects, your big board.
Absolutely. Yeah, because you obviously factor in positional values. Do I think Bijan Robinson is going to go in the top 5 of this draft? No. But is he going to be one of the 5 best players to come out of this draft? Absolutely. So things like running back and tight end, as much as you have one of each in there, you don't think they're going to be taken that early. But you look at, obviously, the quarterback class, a lot of talent. Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud both in the top 10. I'm still buying that C.J. Stroud is going to go in the top 5 of this draft, despite being kind of thrown off the plank here for no reason. I
would love to, right. So I'm curious about, so Bijan, we all think he's just a top 5 talent, obviously, but the NFL devalues running back. So positional scarcity or positional value obviously goes into how teams put their board together, their draft board together. But let's talk a little bit about C.J. Stroud, who you have at 8. You have him as the number 2 quarterback out of this class. There are rumors going around that Will Levis will go second. There's a rumor going around that Will Levis will go first, started by some random dude on Reddit, and then all of a sudden the odds go crazy.
Yeah, it was plus 150 yesterday to go first. Will Levis.
Right.
Will Levis is not going first.
It was
Bryce Young.
It was plus 4,000 2 days ago for Will Levis to go first overall, and now it's plus 150 because of some random dude on Reddit said he heard from a friend that Will Levis is telling people that the Panthers are taking him 1.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
But how does this happen, though, right? Like, honestly, I'm curious from somebody that has such a good perspective of odds in the sports book and how they're made or how they could take a life of their own. I mean, it is draft week, Jay. We have been told Bryce Young is going to be the number 1 pick for how many weeks now? Will Levis was not even viewed as in this conversation. Like, how do we get here?
Well, there's 2 things. So, one, if you're betting on like an NFL line, like a spread during the season, you got to bet 5 figures to move the line. If you're betting NFL draft stuff, you might like a sharp bettor might bet $125, and the price just collapses because traders they're moving off of, they're jumping at shadows because no one knows what is real, what is not. And so as soon as someone bets, you just move the price straight away because you don't want to be the trader who laid $100,000 on Will Levis to go 1 and then he ends up going 1. You're just scared. And setting odds scared is how you get these ridiculous price movements. So Will Levis, he got all the way into plus 150. Now he's back out to plus 500. Bryce Young is going 1. The Carolina Panthers did not trade everything that they traded to go up and take Will Levis, who on some people's boards is like the 4th or 5th quarterback. It would absolutely floor me. Like, nothing is impossible in the draft. It would have seemed ridiculous at a point last year that Trayvon Walker was going to go number 1, but if Will Levis goes 1, I give up. Like, Bryce Young's going 1.
Yeah, it is. It sounds like the plot of Draft Day, which we talked about. And I still want to do a podcast where we just do nothing but break down Draft Day.
We might have the time for that.
And all, just everything that's wrong with it. But where are you on C.J. Stroud? That's the other thing, is that the rumors are Levis is moving up, even if Bryce Young goes 1, taking the weird Reddit thing out. But even if Bryce Young goes 1, right, there are arguments that the Texans might not take a quarterback at 2. They might take Will Levis at 2 instead. There's talk that Anthony Richardson might go ahead of Stroud. There's some negativity around Stroud. Feels weird, to be candid.
Very.
Feels weird and on some weird and on some levels personal.
Yes.
But where are you, like, again, if you're running an NFL team and Bryce Young's off the board and a quarterback's there, you're taking C.J. Stroud?
Yes, it's just borderline no-brainer is what I would call it in this draft. Stroud is an excellent quarterback prospect. He's accurate to all 3 levels of the field. He has poise in the pocket. He's been highly productive. He's played well in big games. He's got athleticism that he knows he needs to unlock at the next level a little bit more. So I think there's 2 things here, right? Maybe Stroud isn't going number 2 overall, and I do believe the Texans might not even take a quarterback number 2 overall. It doesn't mean C.J. Stroud just falls off the face of the earth. The team could come into 3. The pick Arizona would love to trade and take him. How often have we heard the Colts connected to Will Levis to the point where you just stop believing it? I mean, you're telling me Chris Ballard told everybody that Will Levis is going to be a Colt at 4 when there's been no hype around Stroud? When you just watch the tape, Stroud is levels better than than Will Levis. Levels ahead of Anthony Richardson. I still think Stroud is going between the 3rd and 5th pick in this draft.
On that, you can bet on the 2nd quarterback to be drafted. If we assume Bryce Young is the first one, CJ Stroud is plus 250 and Will Levis is minus 275. I think that's gone way too far, and Stroud is now
bet.
the bet at plus 250.
I think plus 250, yeah. I would absolutely put money down on CJ Stroud to be QB2 going.
I think the way this draft unfolds, and you touched on it, like Bryce goes 1. The real buzz and momentum now is that Houston are going to take a defensive player 2, that they're not sold on the quarterback class. It looked like it was going to be Levis. Now it looks like it's going to be Tyree Wilson, who they seem to like more than Will Anderson. The other buzz is that Arizona, no one wants the trade up for 3, so they might be stuck with the pick. I still think there's a chance that a team would trade up for Stroud if he's there at 3, but otherwise, yeah, it looks like it's going to be Will Anderson or potentially Paris Johnson Jr. as the other guy who's been mocked there a bit. And then if it gets to 4 and all the quarterbacks are still there, I think the Colts will take Stroud as well.
I think so too.
Yeah. So I think Stroud goes 4.
Yeah, no, I like that call. I like it a lot. And I certainly like betting him as QB2 at plus 250. Let's go back to your big board here, Connor. Talk to me about some of the offensive players here as we look at your sort of the future starts now. These are some guys that fantasy players will be drafting come August. Who jumps out at you? I mean, Bijan's the big name here, obviously, but talk to me a little, and I think we all know, like, he's just a stud, and it's just a matter of where he lands, but he's going to be a fantasy superstar from moment 1. Talk to me a little bit about a couple of pass catchers there, and Michael Mayer and JSN.
Yeah, I think when you look at JSN, he gets compared a lot to Amon-Ra St. Brown. I'll throw it a little even further. There's Cooper Kupp in his game. Wow. And everybody goes, oh, he only plays in the slot. Well, how do some of the greatest players in the NFL win right now from the slot? Justin Jefferson does it. Cooper Kupp does it. Yeah. Amon-Ra St. Brown does it.
CeeDee Lamb does it.
CeeDee Lamb does it. And you look at some of the projections.
Okay, sorry.
There we go. Some of the projections for JSN, whether it is Green Bay with Jordan Love, whether it is in New England, whether it's with the Jets and reunited with Garrett Wilson, there are landing spots for JSN in this draft where he's going to be able to feast and be a target monster in the middle of the field. He catches everything. He's got an excellent release package to win in his routes. So the floor with JSN out of the gate next year as a rookie is very, very high for me. And the same could be said about Michael Mayer. Despite rookie tight ends not producing, you could trust him in line. He's played everywhere. He's played off the line of scrimmage in the slot. He plays big. Really, Pat Freiermuth is what I see with Michael Mayer. Somebody that just understands how to win in the red zone. He's a first down machine. I think he's got 89 first downs over the last 2 years. That is constantly moving the chains and being a quarterback safety blanket. So those two, they're just quarterback helpers. And if you're in a PPR format, those are 2 guys that you could trust on even as rookies.
One thing I'll just say about JSN, and this is, again, like, there's a lot been made about sort of Ohio State quarterbacks and the lack of their success so far. And like, hey, do we get to count Joe Burrow or not? Like there's a lot of that, right?
And the answer's no.
Right, exactly. But Ohio State wide receivers.
No,
I mean, like whether it's Chris Olave or Terry McLaurin. I mean, just like Ohio, like when you produce at Ohio State as a wide receiver, like that's to me, like that in Alabama, like those are 2 guys that that you feel like that just has a pedigree that you feel very excited about. I'm excited about JSN at the next level. Let's talk a little bit about some of the other wide receivers you have here. How about Jordan Addison and Jahmyr Gibbs? 2 guys that maybe people aren't as familiar with, Connor.
Yeah, I think when you look at Addison, the question people will have is when you are 170-something pounds and you don't run in the 4.3s, you run in the 4.4s, can you still go in the first round, right? So when you look at him, though, he's always open. Another guy that wins at all 3 levels. His drop rate when he transferred from Pitt to USC and started playing with Caleb Williams went significantly down. He's an excellent punt returner. He won the Biletnikoff as a sophomore at Pitt playing with Kenny Pickett. So Addison's somebody that I think he could play inside and outside. You just have to be comfortable with the size. But he will go in the top 40 of this draft. And there are some landing spots for him, maybe somewhere like the Chargers, where there's a lot of targets for him out of the gate. Jahmyr Gibbs, to me, I mean, he is really that third Cook brother. Dalvin, James, the outside burst. His acceleration is as good as I've ever seen. He's just small. He's a smaller guy. He's going to play around 190. So does he get 20 touches a game out of the gate? I don't think so, but he's an excellent pass catcher. He's got home run hitting ability. He's going to be a very, very popular dynasty pick because he's going to be a first-round running back, and he's worthy of that. All the attention's been on Bijan, but Gibbs is a talent that he really reminds me of Dalvin Cook, and as both a runner and a pass catcher.
Fantastic. Well, again, it's all for somebody like Gibbs. It is about landing spot. Will he get to a team that will know how to use him right, that will use him in all 3 phases of the game, and also allow him to, be more a part of the passing game.
Pray for the
well.
Bengals.
But, yeah, Yeah.
Pray for the Bengals.
Yeah, no, he'd be amazing on the – and Will, what's his competition as well there. Can Darnell Washington be a fantasy factor?
It's a great question because he's the guy that is the big blocker. He's like a sixth offensive lineman. But he did play with the best tight end in the country in Brock Bowers that limited his chances. And when you just watch the targets he got, this dude is different. And it's not just the combine workout, the one-handed catches, the red zone ability, jumping over defenders in the open field. So I think with Darnell Washington, he's going to have to be one of those guys in fantasy that you need the 8 touchdowns from, right?
Right.
He's not going to get 8 targets a game. He's not going to be a guy that's constantly getting 60 to 70 yards. But can he score in half of his games? Maybe not year one, but long term, I think he can. How many guys are 6'7", 265, and are like in the 98th percentile of agilities? Yeah. That's a different
on this
dude.
table, none of us.
Combined.
Combined. Yeah, but right, exactly. Just big body part. Will he go to a team that will use him in the red zone and use that size and ability? Speaking of size and ability, let's talk about Quentin Johnson, who the last time on your mock draft you had going to the Giants because of the size and the vertical threat. You still like that?
I really do. That's the one I'm fixated on, and it makes me wonder, do teams know that and feel like they have to get ahead of the Giants to get him? The Giants have had the private visit with him. They've done the dinner with him. You look at all their wide receivers are like 5'9", and sure, Darren Waller will factor into that equation as a big target, but they need a true X wide receiver on the outside. And Quentin Johnston and then a little later Cedric Tillman from Tennessee, they're the only 2 guys in the top of this draft that possess that ability.
If Johnston's on the Giants, does he immediately become their most attractive fantasy weapon in the passing game?
I would think so.
I'd probably still say Darren Waller because the tight end position,
sure.
But certainly you prefer him to Darius Slayton and Richie James and and Isaiah Hodgins and all the
they got 50 wide receivers on the
exactly all the guys there. Last one for me here is I did a dynasty mock draft, Superflex League with a bunch of other fantasy experts for Dynasty League football. And I had the second pick. Bijan went 1. So it's a Superflex League, which means you play 2 quarterbacks, and against a dynasty mock, just rookies. We just did rookies. So I had the second pick. Bijan goes 1. And I took Anthony Richardson because, again, dynasty, I'm not thinking about this year necessarily. I'm thinking about dynasty, and I'm thinking of the quarterbacks, of Bryce Young, of Will Levis, of C.J. Stroud, of Anthony Richardson. Who's got the chance at having the greatest fantasy impact because of not just his arm, but obviously his legs as well. So I went Richardson at 2 and the number 1 quarterback overall, bypassing Young and Stroud. Am I crazy, or do you see that?
Not at all. I think I would do the same thing. Honestly, you look at the rushing floor Richardson has, and there was times at Florida where he didn't run enough because I think he wants to prove I could be a deep-throwing pocket passer. He's going to be a monster in the red zone at the next level. When you get inside the 10-yard line, if he goes to a coach that has half of a brain, this guy, he's too big. He's too big. He's too fast. Nobody could tackle him. He should score double-digit touchdowns in an NFL season on the ground. Yeah. So whatever you get out of him passing, and he's a great deep thrower. I mean, elite deep thrower is a bonus. Now, you might have to wait. In Dynasty, you get that luxury.
Yeah.
If he goes to Seattle, and in a year or 2, he's throwing to DK Metcalf deep, and he's running, and he's got good tackles, and he's got a reliable running back, Richardson has the highest ceiling, and it's not even close.
Yep. Where's he going to go? Because he's been mocked everywhere from 3 to a team that would trade up to 23 to the Vikings.
Yeah, I think he's safely going in the top 8 of this draft. I still like the Colts at 4. Shane Steichen, all that work he did with Jalen Hurts, it meshes well with Richardson. That Seattle fit, though, is just a dream. You get to sit behind Geno for a year, and the reins are yours after a year. You have a good offense. It's a well-structured offense. That's where I hope it's Seattle, and if I had to guess today, I would say Seattle.
Okay.
Yeah, he's a special dude, and you just sort of think about. By the way, you just sort of think about somebody like Cam Newton. Like, I would argue that the best goal line runner in the NFL over the last 15 years was Cam Newton. Forget any running back. Like, Cam Newton was just so good. When Cam Newton was Cam, and I think Richardson can be better.
He's faster.
Yeah,
and there might be a time where he's a better thrower. It's not yet, but he has that kind of potential. So top 300 is on NBC Sports Edge. My player comps, I have over 30 of them, are NBC Sports Edge. If you're trying to get a feel for these later round running backs, who they're like, player comps are up there.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBC Sports and RotoWorld.com. Just want to thank you so much for watching what you just watched, or at least being too lazy to click out of it after the autoplay just kept it going. So either way, thank you so much for just letting it scroll by your screen. And now I'd like to ask you respectfully, okay? Respectfully, please subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel for the latest NFL news, fantasy headlines from RotoWorld, and betting analysis from NBC Sports Edge.